It is time to see the girth and Steven Seagal's rotund career. So let's do this.
I've already covered the career of one talented dancer. Today, it's time for his colleague Steven Segal, a once famous actor, a big enthusiast of broken legs and living proof that the universe is constantly expanding. Steven shot to fame fast, but just as quickly crashed into the world of straight-to-video releases. He could have avoided that, but, well, so.
Oh, yes, This became a thing in his later years. He would literally fight sitting down. Literally, he would fight sitting down. There was, in so many of his later movies, he actually is not the star of the movie. There one in particular, Sniper Special Ops. 95% of him in the movie is him sitting there, literally doing nothing. And he is emblazoned on the cover art of the video. It's saying starring Steven Seagal. He is in the movie for about 10% of the movie, and the vast majority of his screen time is him literally sitting there doing nothing, not even giving a line. Well, Revan, part of it is he has his own production studio, which is probably a front for money laundering, through the Russian government, because he lives in Russia now. But yeah, like his later movies, like pretty much ever since, I think his last theatrical release might have been Fire Down Below. And here's the thing. He's not drawing fans. He's drawing people to laugh at the meme that he has become. Like, I've seen a couple of his older films. I've seen Under Siege. I've seen Under Siege 2. I've seen Fire Down Below. I've seen The Patriot. No, sorry. On Deadly Ground. Yeah. He is a lolcat. I know, Zeb. I know. There was Half Past Dead with, was it Ja Rule? I can't recall. Yep, like a lot of, Above the Law, that was one of his first ones, Kaibo. That was when he was actually thin and was actually, like, in shape. You know, DMX, I forget which one DMX was from, but he did do one with DMX. But like so many of them are straight to video. They are like a strong majority of them have been straight to video. And the reason why I know about most of them is I watched is Jason Brandt watching them on his show on So Bad It's Good. Like that's how I know most of his stuff. Well, no, Revan. She thinks Aikido is ninjutsu. That's the problem. He thinks he treats Aikido like it is ninjutsu because he's made no problem. Actually, I'm not gonna do spoilers because they are probably gonna jump into the insanity of his interviews and the claims that he has made. So let's keep going.
So, how did Seagal's star rise in Hollywood? Which movie destroyed his career? How did he manage to mess with Die Hard? Why does John Wick look like a kid's morning cartoon compared to some of Seagal's films? And how did Steven get cut out of his...
Whoa! Did this man just say John Wick looks like a kid's cartoon compared to any of Steven Seagal's movies? Oh, motherfucker, you better bring some goddamn receipts if you're gonna make that fucking claim. This man better bring some fucking receipts to this discussion.
John Wick looked like a kid's morning cartoon compared to some of Seagal's films. And how did Steven get cut out of his own movie? Watch the video and find out. Let's go. Before breaking into Hollywood, Steven was doing just fine, financially, socially, and career-wise. His first experience in the film industry came while he was still living in Japan. One of his masters recommended him as a katana fight expert for the movie The Challenge in 1982. Steven not only choreographed the fights there, but also brought in his own students as extras. Shortly after, Steven moved to Hollywood. Maybe he wanted his dojo closer to the heart of the film industry, hoping to land another gig as a combat expert. Go with the flow and create opportunities. Classic Aikido philosophy, and it started working. By 1983, Segal had already contributed to the fight scenes in the unofficial Bond film Never Say Never Again, the one where Sean Connery played Bond for the last time. No one knows exactly what Steven had in mind when opening this Aikido club, but reality outdid any plans he might have had anyway. One day, a visitor was so inspired by the sight of Steven juggling with his students with a stone-cold expression on his face that he thought, like, this guy belongs on TV so the whole world can
This is all fake.
had anyway.
Look at that, watch this.
One day, a visitor was so inspired by the sight of Steven juggling with his students with a stone-cold expression on his face that he thought, like, this guy belongs on TV so the whole world can be inspired.
They're literally taking fucking dives for him. This is this is the same shit he does now. No, Aikido actually uses like wrist locks and joint locks. This is him. We've seen the same shit that he's been doing lately. Where he basically just like steps and pushes and like, okay, I'll nudge it. And this guy's like literally like throwing himself. And this guy's like throwing himself. Like, look at it. He doesn't even throw him. Segal does not even throw him. He literally just steps out of the way. And this guy literally throws himself to the ground. This is 100%, like, even back then, this is 100% bullshito. This is 100% bullshito. This is not what real Aikido is. Real Aikido does have, like sidestep maneuvers, but it also involves, a lot of it involves, like, joint locks and armbar type things. It's basically, it's a martial art to defeat your opponent without using strikes. There are no strikes in Aikido, as far as I know. It's hip tosses, it's wrist locks, it's other joint locks, it's leg locks. But we're not seeing that here. We are not seeing that here.
So the whole world can be inspired. And that visitor wasn't just some nobody. He was Michael Ovitz, a Hollywood super agent. Ovitz immediately set the wheels in motion. He funded a 5-minute screen test for Segal, took the tape to Warner Brothers, and the studio execs were just as impressed. Wow. But what really sealed the deal was Steven's live performance. Right there in one of Warner's studio lots, he brought in his students and immediately dominated.
Look at that! Look at the bullshito at play here!
Right there in one of Warner's studio lots.
Because this one is more recent. You can tell by his carriage. Watch this! Wait, I'm gonna let it play full speed. Just watch this.
The deal was Steven's live performance. Right there in one of Warner's studio lots, he brought in his students and immediately...
He did not even do anything there. He literally did nothing. He did a little sidestep. And this guy literally threw himself. But notice the key word that this man used. Listen.
And the studio execs were just as impressed. Wow. But what really sealed the deal was Steven's live performance.
Key word there. Performance. Because everything Segal has done here is performative. And yeah, the guys he's throwing around are better actors than he is.
Right there in one of Warner's studio lots, he brought in his students and immediately dominated, unleashing a bunch of Hadoukens and tossing his students around like rag dolls. Segal later admitted that staging the show took him a few days, but it was worth it. Warner
Staging the show. Staging. None of it's real. Absolutely none of it. It was a performance. performance. DX, you get the bulk. Oh yeah, I mean, it's all fake.
Warner Studios' bosses were sold, and they handed him the lead role in the 1988 action movie Above the Law. And just like that, the so-called golden era of Steven Seagal had begun.
God, what's so funny is even back then, his hairline was already trying to make an escape. Don't forget, Steven Seagal was young back then. I'm not sure how old Steven Seagal was in Above the Law. He must have been in his mid to late 20s, would be my guess. His hairline was already trying to run away. Even back then. Even when he was young, his hair was trying to escape from this man. Was he 30s? Okay. Now, one thing I will give Steven Seagal is in his younger years in Hollywood, he was very entertaining. His older stuff, basically, Under Siege was probably his last good movie. Under Siege was the last good movie where he was entertaining. He was, he was physical. He had the physicality to basically do the choreographed fight scenes and everything. In his younger years, he had good fighting choreography. They did do some really good fighting choreography when he was younger and was physically fit and capable of doing it. And then after Under Siege, it was just all downhill from there.
Steven Seagal had begun. Above the Law didn't exactly crush the box office, but costing $7 million and collecting
I heard the same, J10.
It not only broke even, but also made a profit for the studio. Given the genre, you'd expect critics to rip it apart, but surprisingly they didn't. Most of them actually liked it, including Roger Ebert. And let's not forget, this was a movie starring some random gym coach. Even more surprising is that Seagal wasn't the only newcomer that year. Around the same time, and also from Warner Studios, Bloodsport hit theaters, starring another unknown, some Belgian ballet master. Van Damme's film had an even smaller budget, much smaller one, but grossed even more than Above the Law, becoming a huge hit. The studio nailed.
And yeah, I'm gonna say, I like Bloodsport a hell of a lot more than Above the Law. 100%. Now, granted, Frank Dukes is a fucking scam artist. Frank Dukes is an absolute scam artist. All of his claims that he made cannot be substantiated in any way, shape, or form. He is a bullshit artist. But Van Damme did a good job with the character. Bloodsport as a movie was very entertaining. I enjoyed Bloodsport, and I do think Bloodsport as a movie is a better movie than Above the Law. But yeah, Frank Dukes is a scam artist. Do not believe a fucking thing that he has ever claimed. He is 100% full of shit. But Van Damme was entertaining playing him.
The audience demand, launching 2 new action stars in a single year. After this success, Steven got the message loud and clear. He quit running
Put
his
it on the
Aikido
list,
club and
Grindhouse.
fully committed to movies. The actor took his time picking the right script for his second film, wanting something special. That's how hard to kill.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about. These moves right here. What Steven Seagal's doing right here.
The right script for his second film, wanting something special.
Like, the choreography in his early movies was good. He did have some great fighting choreography. That's not a testament to Steven Seagal's skill as a martial artist. It's a testament to the fight choreographer able to put together the fight choreography and Steven's physicality to be able to follow through with it.
These Seagal moves are some TNG level BS.
Well, revving, that's the thing. Like, the choreography sold it. In his early movies, the way they put it together, it sold it as legit at the time. Now, we see it now with 2020 vision and hindsight, and we're like, yeah, this is all bullshit. TNG would probably be the next generation, is my guess, Silver. Yeah, we're seeing it with 2020 hindsight. And so we can see the bullshit for what it is now. At the time, this was entertaining.
Good. Give in to your anger.
I'm not angry. Yeah, exactly. Like, it was entertaining. And, most people that knew about martial arts, Steven Seagal was using a different kind of fighting style, or at least it was choreographed as a different kind of fighting style than people had never seen before. So, particularly like where
The actor took
the
his time
knockdowns
picking
here.
the right script for his second film, wanting something
Yeah, like the joint locks going into a throw, and his trademark basically clotheslining someone into the ground. People hadn't seen that in fights before. This was something new at this time. People were just used to either just flat out fisticuffs or the traditional martial arts with basically roundhouse kicks. With roundhouse kicks or spinning back kicks or spinning back kicks. That's what people knew from martial arts. Steven Seagal's martial arts style was different. And the fight choreography made it look really good. And that's what made people interested. Problem is, it got tired pretty quickly. And people started to see through the bullshit.
something special. That's how Hard to Kill was born. A movie where Seagal gets shot, spends 7 years in a coma, and wakes up to get revenge. And it became a hit as well, pulling in around $50 million with a budget of 12. Adjusted for inflation, that's like a 20 million film earning close to 100 million. Numbers that would make Keanu Reeves and John Wick look nervously over their shoulders.
Oh, no, they wouldn't. The fuck are you talking about? Okay. What fucking drugs has this guy been smoking? 50 million box office on a 20 million budget is that wasn't adjusted for inflation. They literally said it was a 100 adjusted for inflation. It made $100 million on a $20 million budget. Now, I'm pretty sure John Wick dwarfs this ratio. I'm reasonably sure that John Wick dwarfed the fuck out of this ratio. So no, Keanu Reeves, John Wick, and everyone behind the project is not nervously looking over their shoulder.
Numbers that would make Keanu Reeves and John Wick look nervously over their shoulders. Then followed Marked for Death and Out for Justice, both films sticking to the same budget to box office ratio, meaning they were solid wins. Out for Justice made slightly less, but here the film's brutality might have been the reason. It was easily the most violent entry in Steven's career and one of the most brutal action films of 1990. And that was the censored version, where a good chunk of broken necks and shattered teeth was already cut out. From the dramatic perspective, this is where a failure...
I would argue that the increased violence actually helped. But I'm wondering if the studio decided to not show it in as many theaters because of the violence. And yeah, the cartoon sound effects are kind of funny. Yes, it was, Rygat. Yes, it was.
Or some personal crisis would usually happen and balance out this winning streak. But instead, Seagal's next film didn't just become his biggest box office success. It also marked the beginning of a new chapter in his career, the so-called Silver Era. And that's when his downfall will eventually occur. In time. Warner Brothers bought...
Yeah, J10, that's what I thought. I didn't think it was that small of a, Yeah, I didn't think it was 80 million out of 20 million. That did not sound right. It was 322 on the 75 million. That sounds about right, yeah.
Script for Under Siege, originally titled Dreadnought, for a whopping $1 million from J.F. Lawton. The Pretty Woman screenwriter went all out, packing his draft with nuclear wars, sinking aircraft carriers, and non-stop explosions, sending things flying into space. When the studio saw the price tag on that awesomeness, they politely asked Lawton to curb his enthusiasm and bring the cost down to something less than a trip to Alpha Centauri. The script was toned down, but the title Dreadnought stuck for a while. For those unfamiliar, a dreadnought is an old-school battleship, a name hinting that an aging warship would make a final stand. Segal was offered a then-record $5 million paycheck, and he immediately said yes. But the role required a sacrifice. In the Navy, hair longer than 10 centimeters was prohibited, meaning the actor was ordered to get rid of his now iconic...
Yeah, agree. This, Under Siege, was his last good movie, and it was probably the best movie he's ever made. No. Stay away. Rygat, that's tough to say. The problem is, Rygat, I think naming the movie Dreadnought actually is too hard of a name. I think Under Siege actually, if I was to think of the movie, and I was to think of it being called Dreadnought or being called Under Siege, I think Dreadnought is too on the nose, and would actually make it. I think it would actually, calling it Dreadnought, I feel like would actually take away from it. Under Siege it's not as hard of a title, but that's kind of the point. Under Siege is a more flowing title, which I think works better with the movie. That's my opinion.
Ponytail. Steven tried to fight for it, suggesting his hero was such a legend that the president himself had given him some special permission to keep hair.
Oh my god, of fucking course he did that. That is Steven Segal in a nutshell. Every fucking character he plays, starting with Under Siege, every fucking character he plays is the best. He's former military, he's former spec ops, he's former mercenary. He's always the best. He's the best of the best. And this is where it started, where he tried to suggest that Ryback is such a fucking badass that he gets special permission from the fucking president to wear his hair long. That's where this came to be. Well, no, Revan, Under Siege explained it. He is a cook, but again, he's the best of the best. Because Ryback is an ex-Navy SEAL. The best Navy SEAL. As it happens. He's the best Navy SEAL. And because he punched out his commanding officer, the captain of the ship that he's serving at took him on as his personal cook. But he's the best. So yeah, he is a huge fucking narcissist. Cool cat. Huge. And it shows to the extreme in his later movies too.
The studio listened politely and then firmly insisted on visiting a barber. The film was directed by Andrew Davis, the same guy who made Segal's debut film, Above the Law. Back in the late 80s and 90s, Davis couldn't stop talking about Steven in interviews. How skilled he was, how much he had grown since his first film, how he had become a big professional. 20 years later, his tune had changed, though. In later interviews, Davis admitted he hadn't even wanted to direct Under Siege because of this big professional in the cast. The director only agreed when he found out the big pro would be on screen for only about half the runtime, meaning he wouldn't get in the way too much. While Davis stayed on, Pamela Anderson did not.
No, God, please.
She was almost cast in the lead female role, but Steven ruined that. According to...
You know what? I'm okay with this. It's okay that Pam Anderson backed out because we got another Baywatch babe and Playboy playmate, Erika Eleniak, who actually can act better than Pam Anderson can. So we traded busty babe Pam Anderson for other busty babe Erika Eleniak. I see no problem with this. My point exactly, Cortanis. Erika Eleniak is not only hot as hell, but she can act. Win-win.
She was almost cast in the lead female role, but Steven ruined that. According to Anderson, she was told there were hundreds of other women waiting outside for the part, and if she wanted it, she'd have to let the film's big star get a bit handsy. Anderson refused and walked out. The role went to Erika Eleniak, her Baywatch co-star. Unlike
Yep.
Anderson, Erica later said Segal had acted like a perfect gentleman. Gary Busey, however, strongly disagreed.
Uh-oh.
He claimed he personally witnessed Steven trying to corner Erica multiple times and had even stepped in to stop this mess. So, two possibilities here. Either
In fairness, it is Gary Busey. Gary Busey is a few sandwiches shy of a picnic. So, I honestly have no idea who to believe on this one. I honestly could not tell you what might be the truth. It would not surprise me that Segal got handsy. Yeah, that Cortana's that is a very likely scenario. Because if you look at Segal's later films, like especially the straight-to-video ones, he's always getting incredibly handsy. Yeah, basically. All of his later videos, he's constantly getting handsy with his much younger and incredibly hot female co-stars. Like every single one of them, he's feeling them up, he's kissing them, he's stripping them down to their bra and panties, whereas he doesn't get undressed at all because he's a fat piece of shit. It would not surprise me at all that he tried to get handsy with Erica Eleniak. That would, and I fully believe he probably did that.
Either the actress has a very unusual definition of gentleman, or Anderson and Busey were straight up lying. Both had reasons to dislike Segal. Anderson lost a role because of him, and Busey, well, their story gets more interesting later. Filming took just 2.5 months, and the studio held a test screening. Audiences loved the film, but hated the title. No one understood what a dreadnought had to do with a movie about Segal punching bad guys. That's
There
when
we
the
go.
title was changed to Under Siege.
Which
At
is
the
a better
time, it
title, I
became
must
the
say.
most expensive film ever not to have a press screening. The studio believed film critics were too biased against action flicks, especially ones starring Segal, and would flood the media with
Interesting.
negative reviews that could hurt the box office. Ironically, they didn't need to worry. Under Siege became one of Steven's best reviewed films. It was also his biggest box office hit, pulling in $157 million worldwide, costing $35. Word of mouth pushed it to blockbuster status. So much, actually, that it even affected Die Hard 3. The original plan
Really?
was for Bruce Willis to save hostages on a ship, but because it was too similar to Under Siege, the entire script had to be rewritten. A straight flush with 5 successful films
Interesting.
in a row is a rare thing.
Now, he may bring this up, but the funny thing is, Gary Busey had a 2-picture contract for the Under Siege franchise. He had a pay-or-play contract, and they were originally going to be bringing him in for Under Siege 2, but they killed him off in Under Siege 1. So they couldn't bring him back for Under Siege 2. And I think that might have been a change during filming, but because he had a pay-or-play contract, he still got paid for Under Siege 2, even though he didn't do any work on Under Siege 2 because of his contract. So he made out like a fucking bandit with that. Because they killed off his character in the first Under Siege. So he couldn't be in it, and he got paid a buku bucks for doing nothing. It was fucking great.
Maybe exactly this easiness eventually backfired on Steven, because by this point he had developed a massive ego and a full-blown prima donna complex. And when that mixes with a difficult personality, the outcome is almost never nice.
Was that Mr. Beast?
Because by this point he had developed a massive ego and a full-blown...
Is this Mr. Beast? I can't tell. Does anybody know? Can anybody tell? It's not? Okay.
full-blown prima
Okay, it's
donna
not.
complex. And when that mixes with a difficult personality, the outcome is almost never nice. After Under Siege hit the jackpot, Hollywood's favorite bone breaker suddenly decided he was also a talented director. Two major studios
here we go.
supported this delusion,
Yeah.
20th Century Fox and Warner Brothers. Fox offered Segal the director's chair and the lead role in Man of Honor, along with a $30 million budget to creatively break as many Italian gangsters' necks as possible. Not bad, you might say.
I don't
But
even
Warner
remember
Studios
this
gave
one.
the actor an even better deal. Like, pick any script you want, take even more money, but sign on for the inevitable
God.
sequel to Under Siege. This one was greenlit immediately after the first one became a hit. Steven knew he had Warner execs' balls right in his hands. He negotiated his
Uh-huh.
directorial debut's budget
Yeah, because that's not bullshito
had
right
Warner
there.
execs' balls right in his hands. He negotiated his directorial debut's budget up to $40 million and picked the script on deadly ground.
And by the way, chat, you can tell he was
directorial
starting to
debut's
gain some pounds because he's wearing his shirt untucked the whole time. He did not wear a tuck. I don't think he wore a tucked-in shirt for the entirety of On Deadly Ground. I think this is when he was starting to gain some tonnage and was trying very much to hide it. I'm not sure if this one is where his penchant for chair fighting started. I don't think he did too much chair fighting in this one. But this was Steven Seagal trying to be environmental. This was him trying to be environmental activist Steven Seagal and trying to spread an environmental message. Like, beat you over the fucking head environmental message. It was so fucking bad.
Budget up to $40 million and picked the script on deadly ground. Then he waved Fox goodbye and got to work. And it suddenly turned out a talented person isn't necessarily talented at everything. The production was a
Like, this is On Deadly Ground. Steven Seagal, literally, in this movie, Steven Seagal high-deadly teaches the Indians how to be better Indians. Like, he's like, don't worry, Indians, I will take care of you. You can't take care of yourself. I'm gonna take care of you. Like, it's that kind of mentality. I'm being a little blunt with it. It's not quite that blunt, but he's like, you're like, okay, quick and dirty. He works for an oil company, On Deadly Ground, quick and dirty version. He's working for an oil company. The oil company's corrupt. One of his buddies realizes this, has evidence on it. They realize something's going wrong, so they try and blow up Steven Seagal. It doesn't work. He just gets grievously injured. He is rescued by a Native American tribe who nurse him back to health, and he goes on a fucking dream walk. And of course, he knows exactly what to do because he's presented with a fucking smoking hot naked girl and an old woman, and of course he does not go after the smoking hot woman. He goes to the old woman, which is the right thing to do. And people from the oil company come in and they get shitty with the Indians and they shoot the elder. So Steven Seagal says, I'm going to avenge the elder who I've known for 5 seconds. And he goes and starts Seagaling and doing, because he's the best of the best. He's former, turns out, shock of shocks, he's former special forces or some fucking such shit. And he just starts tearing apart this mercenary group that's been sent after him, and he blows up the refinery, which supposedly saves the environment, and he makes this big environmental speech at the end about how we're destroying the planet and we have to do better for the planet. That's On Deadly Ground, which, by the way, chat, guest stars in it? You know who guest stars in On Deadly Ground? Anyone want to take a guess? There's three notable people that guest star in On Deadly Ground. Number one, Michael Caine. Michael Caine is the big bad guy. Number two, R. Lee Ermey. Gunny is the head mercenary that they call after Seagal. So R. Lee Ermey is in this movie. And for the life of me, I forget the actor's name, but the actor who plays Dr. Cox in Scrubs. For the life of me, I'm blanking on his name. But he is in this movie as one of the bad guys. Yeah, that was who was in this movie. John C. McGinley. Thank you, 504. Yes.
Person isn't necessarily talented.
No,
at
I
everything.
said early Ermey.
The production was a disaster. Steven kept rewriting scenes in a script he had personally chosen, reshooting entire sequences, and even getting into fights with stuntmen. All that blew the budget up to $50 million. When On Deadly
Oh,
Ground
boy.
was screened for test audiences, people literally fell asleep.
And this is also the first movie where he
Fire
started.
sequences,
Hang on.
and even getting into fights with stuntmen. All that blew the budget up to $50 million.
Yeah, this is also the first movie where he started becoming like, oh, I'm actually part Native American, and he started wearing all the fringe fucking jackets. Like, he wore these in several other movies because I think he's claimed that he's part Native American. To some degree. He's like claimed that he's like fucking everything. He just makes the wildest fucking claims you've ever heard.
When On Deadly Ground was screened for test audiences, people literally fell asleep. The original ending was Lord of the Rings director's cut style, where the action is already over, but the heroes are drinking, chatting, creating families, and making kids. In Segal's version, nature itself was these heroes. Deer and rabbits ran around, dolphins leaped out of the ocean, and all living things rejoiced because Steven had once again saved them.
Yup.
The humanity, however, was unthankful. First, the film grossed just $39 million. Second,
on a $50 million budget.
Segal earned his first ever Golden Raspberry nomination in 1995. Not just one, but three. Worst actor, worst director, and worst picture. And for worst director, he got it. Observing this disaster, Warner Studios pulled the movie from international release to cut losses and avoid further embarrassment. This one failure became a turning point in Steven's career. A lifeline remained, of course. After letting the actor portray a talented director for $50 million, Warner Brothers was still willing to film Under Siege 2 with Steven. And at this point, anyone with common sense would have taken the hint from the universe, calmed down a little bit, and delivered a strong sequel. But Segal? Oh no, that train had already left the station. First, Steven didn't even bother getting in shape for the movie. By the mid-90s, his tendency toward, well, let's say toward a wider format was already pretty obvious. But instead of dieting or training, he just wore a corset to look slimmer. Second, the actor had absolutely no plans to stop.
Look at that. You can see in this still shot, he's getting fatter. You can see it right here. He is getting fatter. And he only gets bigger from here. Like I said, with On Deadly Ground, that was the sort of him wearing untucked shirts to hide the fatness.
Interfering in the filmmaking process. Director Jeff Murphy later recalled that throughout the shoot, Segal constantly gave highly important advice on how to properly direct a movie. According to rumors, Gary Oldman, Lawrence Fishburne, and Jeff Goldblum all turned down the role of the main villain just to avoid dealing with Segal's expert insight.
Wow.
Originally, Under Siege sequel was supposed to bring back Gary Busey as one of the villains, despite the fact that his character had been fed to the fish in the first movie. But one of the producers got excited about the idea of a shocking plot twist and signed Busey for the sequel without Steven's approval. The contract was on a pay-or-play basis, meaning Busey would get paid anyway, whether he appeared in the film or not. When Segal came back from vacation and found out about this deal behind his back, he kicked both the producer and Busey off the film, allegedly paying Busey $750,000 out of his own pocket as compensation.
Wow.
So, when Busey later trashed Steven in interviews, it's safe to assume he might have been just a little bit unhappy about getting thrown out of the movie. And also, let's not forget that...
I don't think he was, honestly. Because Gary Busey might have gotten thrown out of the film, he still got paid. He still got paid just as much as if he'd actually been in the movie anyway. So I don't think he cared. He was probably just like, huh, dumbass. He probably didn't care. He was like, I'm getting fucking paid. Well, I don't care. You want to throw me off the film? I'm still getting $700 grand pay. Fuck it, we ball. He wouldn't fucking care. I bet you everything Gary Busey said was probably true. He's crazy enough that he doesn't give a fuck.
Who is the biggest jerk? Gary Busey.
But even without Busey, Segal still managed to mess things up. First came fresh accusations that female roles in the sequel were only given.
Yeah, so two things here. One, he actually gets shot, which in his later movies cannot happen. Steven Segal, in his, like, pretty much ever since Under Siege 2, I think, and maybe a couple movies after, he doesn't get hurt. Ever. No punch lands. He never gets shot because he's the fucking best. And even in Under Siege 2, he takes a gunshot to the shoulder, and it does nothing. It means nothing. It never comes back again. He just like, the co-star with him, like the porter goes, man, you've been shot. He's like, this ain't shot. And they never talk about it again. The gunshot literally just vanishes from the fucking movie. And then, by the way, Mose, thank you for the tier 1. And they're about to talk about how he sexually harasses the actresses. There was, I believe, a photo floating around where Steven Seagal was like touching Katherine Heigl. Not explicitly in a sexual way, but she was clearly very uncomfortable, and I think she was a teenager at the time. Like, he was basically like, it was like a hand on the shoulder or a hand on her hip or something, and she was apparently, like, clearly uncomfortable, and because she's a fucking teenager during the filming of this movie, because Katherine Heigl co-starred in this. And I think that's what is about to come out.
Managed to mess things up. First came fresh accusations that female roles in the sequel were only given to actresses who agreed for a rendezvous with the actor. Those who refused lost their roles, and later talked about it in interviews. As if it wasn't enough, then environmentalists came after Steven. The thing is that at one point he decided the rocks in the scene looked pretty unconvincing. So without much fuss, they were repainted in a more rock-appropriate shade, whatever that means.
Okay.
Environmental groups call this an unforgivable crime against nature, and Warner Studios had to smooth things over with an undisclosed settlement. Maybe they...
I don't know. Tay, I'm gonna call okay. That's not Steven Seagal's fault. That the studio... Hang on, let me hear it again.
So without much fuss, they were at one point interviews. As if it wasn't enough, then environmentalists came after Steven. The thing is that at one point he decided the rocks in the scene looked pretty unconvincing. So without much fuss, they were repainted in a more rock-appropriate shade, whatever that means. Environmental groups call this an...
Okay. This is just fucking stupid. This one, I'm like, okay, Steven Seagal saying, I know better. Like, I know better, paint the rocks a more appropriate rock shade, whatever the fuck that is. But then an environmental group, like, getting their panties in a bunch because, oh, you painted the rocks the wrong color. It's like, go fuck yourself. Yeah, this is an environmental group that is just going, we don't like this. We don't like this. And it's just an environmental group being fucking stupid. I'm not gonna give, like, Seagal probably should have kept his mouth shut about, paint the rocks a more rock color. That's stupid, but the environmentalist thing, no, that's just the environmentalists being stupid.
Unforgivable crime against nature, and Warner Studios had to smooth things over with an undisclosed settlement. Maybe they used this money to repaint the rocks back. I mean, who knows? A fun twist here. Under Siege 2 wasn't originally a sequel at all. The script was actually called Dark Territory and was written by a then-unknown Matt Reeves. Yes, that very guy who's now in charge of the Batman and other DC projects. But back in the 90s, Warner Brothers simply bought his script, slapped Under Siege 2 title on it, and tweaked the plot to add an unstoppable action hero, basically Batman, but on a train. The first Under Siege had a budget of $30 million, and for the sequel, it was doubled. Adjusted for today's prices, that would be like spending $110 million on an action movie. Where did all that money go? The film seems fairly small scale, right? Well, not exactly. For example, the train cars you see in the movie were all built from scratch. These were full-sized and functional, and they were later reused in other Hollywood films. During post-production, there was again a lot of drama. The director and editing team begged Warner Brothers to do something about Seagal, who refused to leave the editing room. The talented actor wasn't just hanging out there drinking beer or something. He was actively controlling the process, demanding the movie be cut exactly the way he envisioned. The studio ignored the complaints, so the final version that hit theaters is actually Steven's, the one he personally supervised. Just before release, the film's original title, Dark Territory, was added as a subtitle, making it Under Siege 2 Dark Territory. At the time, adding subtitles to sequels was considered cool, and plain numbers felt like some old fart stuff. The movie hit theaters in 1995 and immediately...
Wait. Anytime where did I miss that? Where did you say that?
Is actually Steven's, the one he personally drama. The director and editing team begged Warner Brothers to do something about Seagal, who refused to leave the editing room. The talented actor wasn't just hanging out there drinking.
God, meme, I missed that. Oh, dear God. Oh, are you going to call Steven fucking Seagal a talented actor? Maybe, but, excuse me, maybe, but this is also the same person that said that Above the Law had John Wick looking over its shoulder in terms of box office. So, I don't know. Maybe he was being sarcastic on that one too. I don't know. Xanax, I don't think so. You think the Sword John Wick comments were sarcastic too? I don't know. The context of them didn't feel sarcastic to me. Because, like, when he was talking about Above the Law, it did make a good profit for the time. I'm not thinking it was sarcastic at all. Which makes me think that this may not be sarcastic either. And if this man thinks Steven Seagal is a talented actor, yeah.
Some old fart stuff. The movie hit theaters in 1995 and immediately lost to Apollo 13.
Houston, we
Shocking.
have a problem.
Within a couple of weeks, it had dropped out of the top 10 completely.
Okay. I'm gonna do a gimme here. If you release any movie against Apollo 13, you're fucked. That was a no-win situation. Apollo 13 would have destroyed any movie that came out that summer. So I am fully prepared to do it to do a gimme on Under Siege 2. Given that it was given what it released against. I will fully do a gimme on that.
Houston, we have a problem.
Within a couple of weeks, it had dropped out of the top 10 completely. In the end, the final box office total was just $105 million. If the costs had been the same as the first movie,
Still a
this
profit.
would have been fine. But with a $60 million budget, it wasn't nearly enough to be profitable. Perhaps the studio made some money back from home video sales, but there's no
Did
hard
they?
data on it.
People that were around when Under Siege 2 Dark Territory came out, how heavily did they market Dark Territory? Because if it was a $60 million budget and it made, what did they say it made? If it made 105 on a $60 million budget, that's why I'm asking it. I mean, like, how heavily marketed was Under Siege 2? For those back then that might have seen it. I'm genuinely curious because I don't know. I don't know how heavily budgeted it was or how heavily marketed it was. Was it heavily marketed? Okay. If it was heavily marketed, then yeah, my guess is it barely broke even or lost money because, the rule is whatever the budget is, double it to include the budget, include the marketing. So they might have broken even.
On that. At this point, a major action star like Seagal could still have bounced back, even after 2 big flops in a row. He could have done that with the Executive Decision Project, which was set to release right after Under Siege 2. But things went so...
And by the way, him calling Seagal a major action star? No, I'm actually going to agree with that, I'm actually going to agree with that. Around this time, Steven Seagal was still considered a major action star. Around this time, he was still considered that. It was not long after this that he was not that he slumped. But around this time, he was viewed as being a major action star. Again, we are looking at this in hindsight of 2020 vision, but respectively, around the times of like the Under Siege, even with his flops, he was still considered an action star. He was.
So horribly wrong that Steven ended up being cut out of his own movie where he was supposed to be the main star.
Uh-huh.
In the mid-90s, Warner Brothers found the script for
Yeah.
executive
Oh, they did. Oh, they didn't. Oh, they're about to talk about it. Okay.
decision and immediately traded it for Forrest Gump's script, which the studio owned at the time. Today, that deal sounds like something straight out of a comedy sketch, but back then it was dead serious. Forrest Gump was quite risky. The script was raw. The idea of a blissfully clueless protagonist seemed
fucking Jenny. Okay. Off topic. Jenny's the villain of Forrest Gump. Fuck Jenny. Jenny is a cunt. And she is an absolute bitch. I feel so bad for Forrest for falling in love with her. She is an absolute bitch. Fuck Jenny. Yeah, she leads him on the whole fucking movie. She leads him on, gets pregnant with his child, never tells him about it, fucks anything that moves. Yeah, probably gave him AIDS, and then she dies from AIDS, and he has to raise his son. And I'm not sure if they ever established what he was diagnosed with. If he was diagnosed with like mental retardation or what, I'm not sure if they ever established what he has. It was AIDS. It was AIDS, Zeb. Hep C. I thought for sure it was AIDS. I thought she actually said AIDS. Anyway, but yes, Jenny is the villain of Forrest Gump.
questionable, and analysts were predicting a flop. The success of Rain Man was widely dismissed as some kind of Matrix glitch that just happened to work. Executive Decision, on the other hand, was seen as a guaranteed hit, a top-notch action film dropping right at the peak of the genre's popularity.
Zeb.
And there was Steven Segal, the superstar who was personally interested in the project. So Warner Studios didn't hesitate. They handed Forrest Gump over without a second thought and started prepping for production, looking for a more low-key actor to pair up with Steven. But when everything was set in motion, Segal delivered two massive flops in a row, On Deadly Ground and Under Siege sequel. He had cost Warner a fortune, so the studio suddenly had second thoughts about betting everything on him.
She ran the train
After
with the
some
Black
serious
Panthers,
brainstorming,
and she had the nerve to blame her father for all her suffering.
Did she? I don't remember if she did that. It's been a while since I've seen Forrest Gump. Yeah, that's what I thought, V-Dog. Like, I thought when she was talking to him, she actually said something about it being AIDS. That's... Because it was during, like, the 60s or the 70s, and that was, like, that whole thing. Yeah.
the executives decided to not let Segal carry the movie alone. Instead of casting a sidekick, they brought in a co-lead of equal star power. That's how Kurt Russell landed the role. His recent success in Stargate made him a perfect fit. Steven, of course, wasn't happy about this.
Yes.
As soon as filming began, he...
No, and the funny part about this is, I'm pretty sure, oh fuck, what, I just blanked on the name of the movie. Executive Decision. I'm reasonably sure Executive Decision, when it was marketed, they fucking marketed it with Steven Seagal heavily. They heavily marketed Steven Seagal with the Executive Decision, and they killed him in the first fucking 20 minutes. I think he lasted 20 minutes, Revan. I think he did do 20, but they killed him in 20 minutes. He's out of the movie. And everybody that went to see it was fully expecting it to be a Seagal movie. And people went, what the fuck? And Tyler the Gamer, thank you for the follow.
He started throwing his weight around, clashing with actors and the crew. The worst of it landed on John Leguizamo, who simply couldn't tell whether Segal was being serious or just messing with him. John occasionally burst out laughing at Segal's dramatic statements, which only confused and infuriated Steven more. Sometimes he just stared at Leguizamo menacingly, and other times he completely lost it, demanding to know what the hell was so funny. This little detail is actually a perfect example of a certain Steven's personality trait, but we'll get to its significance in his career soon. Maybe the studio would have ignored Segal's attitude on executive.
And by the way, you can actually see it now. You can actually see it in this. The rotundness. You can see the thickening of Segal. You 100%
Steven's
can
personality trait, but
see
we'll
the
get to its
white in it.
significance in his career soon.
Oh yeah, you didn't know that,
Maybe the
Kratos?
studio
Yeah, John Leguizamo is okay. So quick and dirty for those that don't know executive decision. A 747 is hijacked by, I think it was Muslim terrorists, because at the time Muslim terrorists were basically the big bad. It was before Hollywood switched to using Russians as the big bad and big bad terrorist. So the executive decision, I think it was Muslim terrorist, and basically I think it was a Delta team. I don't think it was SEALs. I think it was a Delta team, which of course Seagal was in charge of, takes an F-117 that is equipped with this prototype, thing that can affix to the underside of the belly of the plane, and they go up there, and Seagal dies, and Leguizamo's character is basically second in command, so he takes over in charge of the Delta team. And so he was a major role in that. Like, Kurt Russell was the star, but Leguizamo was like a co-star, but he was like, he a lot of screen time.
would have ignored Seagal's attitude on executive decision, just as they had before. Maybe they even would have tolerated his recent box office failures. But around that time, serious scandals started blowing up around
God,
his
the
name.
hair.
The press was suddenly flooded with Me Too reports on Steven, and even claims that he was using his Aikido moves on his wife. After that, Kurt Russell rebelled and told the studio he would just quit if Segal remained in the lead role. And again, a couple of years ago, Warner Brothers probably would have ignored Russell's ultimatum. Hell, maybe they would have just fired him instead. But at this point, the studio execs were done. They panicked and immediately demanded to rewrite the script, removing Seagal's character as much as possible. Steven tried to put up a fight at first, but quickly backed down. The actor realized that his contract with Warner still had multiple films left, and if he sued the studio, they could terminate the whole deal. And Segal desperately needed new projects.
McToppler, Seagal
So
lore.
he obediently filmed his character's early demise.
Oh, that's right. Oliver Platt was like the nerd guy. I forgot about that part. Yeah, Oliver Platt is in this movie as like the science geek or the computer geek.
Character's early demise, while his role was split between the other characters. Ironically, the biggest winner here was John Leguizamo. His screen time significantly expanded and the role boosted his career. Most likely, this wouldn't have happened if the original script had stayed as it was. As for the film itself, insiders later claimed it became worse after the rewrites. Cutting Steven's character killed the pacing, and many analysts consider executive decision a textbook example of wasted potential. But even in this weakened form, the movie still pulled in $122 million worldwide on a budget of $55, just above the break-even point. Seagal's name was completely erased from all promotional materials, removed from the opening credits, and barely mentioned on posters, except in a handful.
Really? I thought they promoted executive decision with Steven Seagal heavily. Maybe this is possible. I don't know. I thought for sure that they promoted him as like being the star of that. I thought for sure. Maybe I'm wrong.
Handful of European markets. It's unclear if these measures helped the box office or hurt it. Quickly ditching Steven in executive decision didn't mean Warner was ready to fully abandon their star. He needed saving, and the studio tried to do it with two films, The Glimmer Man and Fire Down Below. But by that point, dark clouds had gathered over Seagal, and Warner wasn't willing to risk serious money on The Glimmer Man. The studio slashed the budget from $75 million to $45. After that, Tommy Lee Jones ran from the project, and his role was handed to Brian Cox. Cutting costs meant several key action scenes and entire story arcs were scrapped, which unsurprisingly didn't do the film any favors. To make things worse, Steven had become completely lazy, constantly showing up late and delaying production. The crew was often forced to improvise, further butchering an already crippled script. If The Glimmer Man flopped hard-grossing...
What's so funny is they had big names in this in Glimmer Man. They Keenan Ivory Wayans. They had where'd he go? Hang on.
Cox.
Yeah, they had Brian Cox. They had I forget this actor's name. He's played the bad guy in a lot of movies. He was in Yeah, he was Shawshank Warden guy. He was also in Demolition Man as like the chief. For the life of me, I can't remember his name.
Butchering
And
an
then
already-
you also have, you're blocking him. Let me see if I can move you guys out of the way. Skinner. Skinner was also a big bad in this movie. I forget for the life of me the actor's name, but the guy that plays Skinner from the X-Files. Like, that's some big
crippled
names.
script. If the Glimmer
Yeah, and
Man
he was
flopped
Jag
hard,
Admiral.
grossing just $20 million on a $45 budget, then Fire Down Below literally lit a fire under Warner Brothers execs' asses, thinking that the Glimmer Man failed because of the budget cuts.
Oh, and this is
Warner
Southern
went all in
Segal.
on the next Segal film.
This
dropping
was Southern
$60
Segal
million.
with Fire Down Below.
The same
This is where he
massive
started
budget
getting
as
Southern
Under Siege
accents.
sequel, by the way, which had already been a disappointment with its $105 million box office. And Fire Down Below made not 105, not even 55, but miserable 16. One of the reasons for such a
Oh, fuck. I did not know Fire Down Below made that little. That is a bum 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 bum. Oh, that was bad. Yeah. But this also had some big names in it. It had Chris Christopherson as the big bad. Fucking They had some like country music legends in here. They had Travis Tritt and fucking Randy Travis in Fire Down Below. Like, they had some big names in this. That's probably where all that money went to in the budget.
crappy result is perhaps that the film didn't actually look pricey. For comparison,
Oh, yeah,
The
Mark
Matrix,
Helgenberg.
released just a year later, only cost $3 million more and still looks amazing. And a final punch,
Hey.
Segal got 4 Golden Raspberry nominations for this film.
Yes,
After
Chris
burning in
Christopherson
cinematic hell
was the big
alongside
bad
Steven
guy,
with Fire
Grindhouse.
Down Below, Warner decided to hit pause. They probably figured audiences just wanted a break and the actor's next film needed time to settle. That next collaboration took 4 years to materialize, during which Segal's only somewhat notable project was The Patriot, a movie where he starred alongside his own daughter.
God.
In 2001, Warner Brothers released the final Segal movie under their mutual contract.
Yeah.
Exit Wounds was produced by Joel Silver, the guy behind Lethal Weapon and Die Hard, and directed by Andrzej Bartkowiak, who would later give us Doom. The film's budget is a bit of a mystery. Some sources claim it was $33 million, while others insist on 55. This difference is huge,
Yeah.
considering the movie earned 80. If the budget was $33 million,
Oh.
it was a legit success. Steven's first.
What? Hang on, let me find it here.
The
Hang
film's
on.
budget is a bit of a mystery. Some sources claim it was $33 million, while others insist on
Wait
55.
for it.
This difference is huge, considering the movie earned
Wait for
80.
it. You can kind of see it in here. The
If the
fatness
budget
to
was
show it.
$33 million, it was a legit success. Steven's first in almost a decade. But if it was closer to 50, well,
Yeah, it's
that's a
definitely
whole
still a
different
failure.
story. Given that people at the time were calling it Seagal's big comeback and
Oh, yeah.
an unexpected
And
hit,
doesn't
the
tuck
film
in
likely
his
at least
shirts.
broke even. And right here, or maybe even a bit earlier, Steven actually had a real shot.
Well, look at him. He even sits fat. Look at the way he's sitting. He's like fat sitting. Look at that. Oh yeah, you're seeing his jaw. Also notice his hair is getting darker. His hair, he's actually got the epic widow's peak now. When he was younger, his hairline ended like here. His hairline ended here
At a career
when he was like 20 to 30 years younger. But somehow he maintained the epic widow's peak. His hair has gotten darker. And look, you can see the fatness. When he's even like flat out that sitting fat. And Chad, he gets bigger than this. Like, physically. He probably puts on an additional 50 to 100 pounds in addition to this.
career comeback. Maybe if he had followed the same playbook as other aging action stars,
And
dipping
oh,
into
the
comedy.
facial. God, like, his goatee is like. Okay, I cannot take credit for this, He's got the fucking dirty donut goatee right here. I cannot take 100% credit for that joke. I've heard it elsewhere. But this is like the dirty donut fucking goatee. It is so gross. It is so, he's so fucking gross. And his hair gets all like greasy and ratty too in a lot of his direct-to-video movies that he did when he got like fatter and fatter and fatter. His hair gets all like nasty looking.
For a while.
He's just gotten
The
worse
best example
as
is
the years
Arnie,
progressed.
of course. Stallone tried this as well with Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. Bruce Willis always blended action with humor. Jackie Chan, well, that's his entire thing. Seagal, on the other hand, either had
Look! Look! Just take it in, chat. Take it in. Look at the fatness in his face. Like, oh, what? Yeah. Oh, yeah. This was around that time when he started wearing, like, a kung fu gi all the damn time. He started, like, I'm very kung fu. And, like, would just constantly, every movie, he would wear, like, a kung fu gi in every fucking movie that he did. Because suddenly he was a kung fu expert. Yeah, yeah, he gets fatter. This is not even, as Atanashi said earlier, this is not even his final form.
Seagal, on the other hand, either had no sense of humor and zero self-roasting skills, or just didn't even try. Maybe all of the above. By
God,
most
he even
accounts, his
stands
humorless
up
nature
fat.
was a running joke on set. At the same time, Steven completely stopped caring.
Oh, yeah, this one. I forget what country he went to. I forget what country this was that he went to go visit. They're all like, you know, skinning the carrots. He's just sitting here, like, munching on a carrot. Like, just look at him. He can't even stand up straight. He's like fucking hunched. And he's just like,
I'm gonna eat you. Get in my belly.
Yeah. He gets pretty close to that in the end. He gets pretty close to fat bastard levels of fat in the end. We have not reached his final form.
Completely stopped caring about staying in shape, taking up more and more space in the frame each year, but still kept portraying serious action heroes. Of course, audiences quickly notice this kind of BS and don't fall for it.
Oh, okay. Funny thing here. Okay, so this movie, God, I'm gonna go so over time. I don't fucking care. This movie that we're seeing right here was called China Salesman. No, he is not Grindhouse. Steven Seagal is still alive. Last I heard. So this movie is called China Salesman. It is Chinese propaganda. Yeah, it's called China Salesman. It is 100% Chinese propaganda. It was literally produced by the CCP. Sorry. Yeah, the CCP. It was literally produced by the Communist Party in China. It was all about basically China was going to basically bring like 3G or 4G cell networks to Africa and save the African people. It was 100% Chinese propaganda. Seagal had a small part in it, as did Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson basically played a terrorist in it. And at the beginning, towards the beginning of the movie, they have a fight because Mike Tyson plays like a very devout Muslim terrorist who doesn't drink alcohol, and Seagal has an alcohol bar in Africa that forbids alcohol. Figure that one the fuck out. And so they fight. And yes, he does this thing in the fights
about staying
when they're
in shape,
fighting,
taking up more and more space in the frame each year.
Like Mike Tyson
portraying serious
is
action
like
heroes.
beating shit up,
Of course,
and then he
audiences
does
quickly
this
notice
like
this kind of BS and don't fall.
yeah, he does this slap to the ear. Here's the funny part. The way this fight concludes, number one, Seagal actually gets hit a couple times by Mike Tyson. That never happens in his movies during this time period when this movie was filmed. That never happens. Well, anyway. Here's the crazy fucking part. Mike Tyson knocks Seagal's character the fuck out. In this movie, Mike Tyson's character literally knocks Seagal's character the fuck out. Which did not happen in Seagal movies. In Seagal movies, it was fucking, like, around this time, it was heresy for Seagal to even be fucking hit. Because it was in his movies, he was always the best of the best, he could never be touched. But here's the thing, and I saw this on Jason Brand's channel. When Tyson knocks out Seagal, you don't see Seagal's face. So the suspicion is, Tyson and Seagal did the fight, and they basically wrapped filming with Seagal thinking it was a draw. And when he left the scene, they brought in like a stunt double and said, okay, Tyson, knock him the fuck out. And then put that in the movie. And Seagal didn't realize that Tyson's character was going to knock him the fuck out. That is the suspicion, because there's not a snowball's chance in hell Seagal would have been okay with, like, Mike Tyson knocking him out.
And don't fall for it.
A little bit of trivia.
And comedies being out of shape could have actually become a winning move. These are just assumptions, of course. In reality, Exit Wounds was the last Seagal film to get a budget over $20 million. And after the 2002 monstrosity that was half past dead, the average budget of his films crashed down to about $6 million. At that point, the actor's movies had fully transitioned into straight-to-video releases designed exclusively for hardcore fans of the world's most deadpan Aikido enthusiast. The only movie with Steven that actually hit theater...
It's largely suspected that basically Steven Seagal is using all the movies that he made as like some kind of like money laundering scheme or something. That's because he barely acts in any of them. He don't, like, all of the fights are done by stunt doubles. He doesn't even voice a chunk of his lines. Remember when we would play Cyberpunk and there was that one guy who gives you the katana and his voice changes like halfway through the line reading? And I said, holy shit, did Steven Seagal's voice actor just step in? That's what I was referring to.
I like this. This is cute. I want this inside of me.
Oh, for God's sake. He doesn't, like, he refuses to, like, ADR.
Oh, yeah.
And somebody else, like, will voice act his lines in post.
Kind of got a funny aftertaste, though.
Just Seagal, Katbo. Just Seagal. Because he likes to pretend he's hot shit. That's it. I do not hate heavy guys. I just hate Seagal because he's so up his own ass and thinks he's still some martial arts master when the guy can barely fucking move. He can barely fucking walk. Okay?
World's most deadpan Aikido enthusiast. The only movie with Steven that actually hit theaters during these years was Machete by Robert Rodriguez. Even though Seagal wasn't the main star, he still managed to make it onto the posters and drive some attention. There was also the bizarre reality TV show Steven Segal Llama, which ran from 2009 to 2014.
I remember this show.
Steven running around Louisiana and Arizona with real-life sheriff.
Oh, here he is. This is where you see Steve at his rotundness. Oh yeah, he was the villain in Machete. He fought, oh fuck. What's his name? Oh my god. I'm blanking. My brain just went numb. Danny Trejo. He fought Danny Trejo's machete at the end. And even like, and Danny Trejo didn't actually defeat him in Machete. That's the crazy part. Danny Trejo did not actually beat Seagal. You know how Seagal got beat? By himself. Seagal actually, like self-deletes. He does, like, Harry Carey. And that's how he gets beaten. Is Segal actually like disembowels himself. He refused to allow Danny Trejo to beat him in the movie. He had to basically beat himself in the end. And that's how Segal dies in Machete. Uh-huh. Oh yeah, Danny Trejo was 100% a fucking badass. Absolutely. Silver, you're not wrong. You are not wrong. But Steven Seagal Lawman, this is where you see him at some of his most rotund. And he's supposed to be a shit. This was a whole thing where he was like a reserve deputy chief for like the Louisiana sheriffs. I don't know if it was for murder, J10, but Danny Trejo did serve time in jail. I don't remember what it was for exactly, but yes, he did do jail time. And he is one of the most wonderful. Danny Trejo is one of the most wonderful people you'll ever meet from everything I've heard about him. He is an absolute softie and a sweetheart. He is a wonderful guy. Was it drugs? Okay, it was drugs. In his youth, I'm sure.
Real-life sheriffs and teaching them Aikido to fight crime or something. Despite fresh harassment scandals surrounding the actor in the early 2000s and 10s, the show actually did pretty well. Some critics even called it a masterpiece of unintentional comedy, whether that was the goal or not. For the past 6 years, Segal has been completely absent from filmmaking. He moved to Russia and now works as a special representative for humanitarian relations between Russia and the U.S. Judging by how...
fucking shit. Bull fucking shit, he works as a special representative of humanitarian issues between the U.S. and Russia. Bull fucking shit. Putin just parades Segal around as his little puppet. I guarantee you, he does not do anything. He's just he's over there just so Putin can say we have Steven Segal. That's it. Putin will bring him out as like a quote-unquote celebrity when he wants a recognizable face at like a press thing or something. I guarantee you, he doesn't do fuck all. He just sits around and gets fat. Like the last time I saw an interview with Segal, he was literally so big and out of shape. He was sitting at a table and he literally was cradling a handheld little fan to keep himself cool by pointing it at his face. Like, he's so freaking big and out of shape. He had this like little fan that he was holding in his hands. It was the interview where he was talking about brainstemming someone, like doing the brainstem thing. And like during part of the interview, he was sitting at a table like cradling a fan in his hands to cool his face. It's so pathetic.
How well that particular field is going, it seems he's slacking off there too. Which honestly sums up his career pretty well. Segal had everything handed to him, became a star overnight, and let his ego bloat to ridiculous proportions, deciding he can just relax and vibe now.
Along with his weight
As a result, he himself bloated as well. The actor had zero ability or willingness to adapt.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh, oh my god, Jen, look at this guy! Look at him! Leaf, walk! He is Big Chungus. I have not seen this before. Holy shit.
Well, the actor had zero ability or willingness to adapt, which is kind of unexpected from an Aikido guru whose entire philosophy is based...
He can barely fucking move. Alex, I think his stomach ate it. Oh my god. Okay, I knew he was big. I was not prepared for this. Words are starting to fail me. Chat, we should be wary about getting sucked into his gravitational pull. Oh my god. And McToppler, thank you for the tier 1.
Based on adaptation and redirection. But to be fair, it's insanely hard to avoid catching a bad case of star syndrome when you become famous immediately from your very first movie. In that sense, Steven's career is almost identical to that of a certain Belgian martial artist who loved showing his buttocks on screen, consuming crazy amounts of substances, and driving everyone nuts on set. And actually, we have a whole video on that guy, including the story about the real-life fight between Segal and Van Damme. Yeah, that really happened. And somehow the universe didn't collapse after that. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. Hit like and subscribe if it was of any interest, and see you next time.
Wow. Wow. That was... Okay, the ending of that one, I was not prepared for that. I was not prepared for Segalis Gigantus. Yeah, like, they didn't actually fight. Van Damme wanted to fight Segal, but Segal wouldn't fight him. Is I think the story that I heard. Van Damme was fully prepared to duke out with him, and Van Damme would have kicked Segal's ass. I have no doubt. Van Damme actually could fight. Van Damme is a legit martial artist. But, oh...